Hello and welcome to Dialogue. I'm Yang Rui in Beijing. From its beginnings with just 50 or so members, the Communist Party of China has now evolved into the biggest political party in the world with a membership of 88 million. It has successfully increased the political and economic stability of 1/5 of the world's population and prevented China from suffering the fate of the former Soviet Union. How do we account for the party's vitality? What allows it to act as effectively as it does? And looking ahead, what challenges does it have to meet and overcome? For our discussion here today, I'm very happy to be joined in the studio by Mr. Zhou Shuchun, Executive Deputy Director of the Academic Commission of Xinhua News Agency. But before we get started, let's look at this.
Zhou Shuchun, the Vice President of China's Xinhua News Agency, famed for its disciplined reporting style. Born in 1958, Zhou went on to study for degrees in English and law and started his work with Xinhua News Agency in 1986. Since then, he has served as reporter, director of the agency's London branch and editor-in-chief of Reference News. His life and career have been imprinted by the modern development of this most influential media outlet in China. Xinhua News Agency was first established in 1931 in Ruijin, Jiangxi Province, as the Red China News Agency. It was born at the same time as the provincial central government led by future Chinese leader Mao Zedong. Later, in 1937, it changed its name to Xinhua News Agency. At the forefront of news events, Xinhua has stood witness to history, the start of the 8-year war against Japanese aggression, the founding of the People's Republic, reform and opening up, the country's first manned space mission, and numerous international events. Today it has become one of the world's largest news and information gathering networks, with headquarters in Beijing and more than 150 bureaus at home and abroad.
Welcome to Dialogue, sir. Can you brief us on the general picture of the Communist Party of China? I mean, give us a general picture about how you look at this biggest political party in the world.
In the first place, as you said, it's a massive party, the biggest political party in the world. As a ruling party for the most populous nation in the world, the party has presided over an economic miracle and social progress of the largest scale in the world in the history of modernization. And number three, if we try to select a most important political party in the world, that's CPC, as China has become a most important factor for the development of the world. And this party decides where China goes. So there is no political party in the world that is in a position of such global relevance.
But what about the ability of this party to exercise its own governance?
It's true that the party has attached great importance to the construction of the party building since the founding of New China. And this is especially true after the 18th Party Congress. Yes, if we look at what happened in the past few years. And to borrow a concept from political science, the judgment of the governing capability of a party could be made on leader-follower relations. And the question could be if the party has a better relationship in this regard. And I think the answer is positive.
A few people question the political will of President Xi Jinping in launching this anti-corruption campaign. But don't you think it is also a serious issue to examine whether the party is able to institutionalize the ongoing anti-corruption campaign?
I think corruption is a problem for the world, for all societies. And because of China's special political system, there was the presumption that China would never make real progress. But look at what happened in the last few years. I think progress and breakthrough have been made on the fight against the corruption. But you are right in saying that further progress or complete success depend on institutions. I think on the prevention of corruption, there is the theory of 3 knots, so to speak, to describe different degrees of changes that is not there in the first place, and then not able to and not willing. I think for now, I think it's a situation of not there. That is, some potential elements simply refrain from making further moves under the effect of heavy gunpowder on corruption. But to go from not there to not able to, I think we need to build a tighter cage to contain any possible abuse of power. And as a matter of fact, I think not only for the sake of anti-corruption, institutions in general need to be improved and perfected as a whole. I think more than 20 years ago, Deng Xiaoping said that in another 30 years, we should have built up a full set of institutions that would be more mature and better formulated. I think that makes a lot of sense. And what the leadership has in mind for now is something of the fifth modernization. That is modernization of governance, modernization of the institutions, and that's very important, I think.
In terms of house cleaning for the Communist Party of China, we have two different models to learn, to have the inspirations. One is, of course, the ICAC in Hong Kong, the other Singaporean model. Tell me briefly the uniqueness of the Communist Party of China's ability in undertaking its own anti-corruption campaign.
I think the answer lies in democracy. Of course, Chinese style democracy say we have to have democratic supervision, and that's why we have the disciplinary commission within the party. And we have to have democratic decision making. And that is why the party attaches great importance to listening to all kinds of ideas from all quarters, and to have thorough and comprehensive research and investigation before any decision making is made. Mm-hmm. And also democratic election for different offices. Offices at different levels.
Let's look at the question of representation or representativeness of the Communist Party. To what degree do you think the general public could be well represented in the decision-making process or in persuading the population that we are very serious about what we are doing here?
I think this is about the way the party looks at itself, at the position of leadership. And it's about the relations between the party's interest and the interest of the people. And I think the party understands perfectly well that the party absolutely has no special self-interest of its own, except the unity of its interest and the interest of the people it serves. Being in power is in the interest of the party, but the only reason to be in power for the party is to serve the purpose and serve the cause, a lofty cause. So I think the party should never seek any selfish interest. If you do that, you'll be out one way or the other. But of course, it's true that with the absence of a kind of electoral process for the change of office once in a while, it's kind of different situation for the CPC to face, in making sure that it represents all the time. So in this case, I think the party has to be its own opposition, its own powerful and effective opposition all the time.
Let's look at the legitimacy of the Communist Party of China. In the West, we know that the use of ballot box and the election campaign, such as the one we see in the United States and in many parts of the world, may decide whether the ruling party is legitimate or not. Mr. Huang Yanpei said to the then party leader, Mr. Mao Zedong, that here is the law of history. Now rulers come and go ruthlessly. It's what he called the vicious cycle of a power transfer. Do you think we are facing the same roller coaster or vicious cycle? To what degree do you think the Communist Party of China will be able to overhaul this law of history and navigate its own course independently?
I think first of all, legitimacy of the ruling party, I think, comes from the choice of the history and decision of the people. And I think we know that the party itself was born as a result of the nation's search, a free path for China's modernization. And over the years following the Opium War in 1840, I think, there was a full spectrum of doctrines, theories, thoughts, ideas presented and offered by different political forces for a way out of backwardness and of the oppression by foreign forces to win independence and prosperity. It's kind of a competition for power, but actually it's a competition for the best plan for China's future. And the party won the test with the best road for China's modernization. And I think history has made the right decision. And we can see that in the span of several decades, China had moved from where it lagged far behind the world to where it's kind of a leader in many aspects, the second largest economy in the world, contributing for over a quarter of the economic growth for the world, contributing more than 80% of poverty reduction for the world. So this is the kind of a different theory of performance for the legitimacy of the power. Of course, that alone isn't enough. That is why we refer to democracy as the fundamental answer to long-term, to sustained, to long-term power in office. And that is the answer, I think, the party leader Mao gave to Mr. Huang in Yan'an a long time ago.
Right, but we have basically two forms of democracy. One is electoral democracy, the other consultative democracy. But you are watching dialogue with Mr. Zhou Shuchun, Executive Deputy Director of the Academic Commission of Xinhua News Agency. We are reviewing not only the history of the Communist Party of China, but the current adversity and challenges that the biggest ruling party of the world is facing. We'll be back to discuss more of such thorny issues. Stay with us. Come back, sir. It's, of course, a big surprise for most of the observers of China's development, particularly for China Hands, who studied a lot why and trying to figure out why the Communist Party is able to transform China into the second biggest economy and the biggest trading power of the world within a short period of 3 decades, or a little bit more than that, particularly after our entry into the WTO. I mean, the frog leap did surprise the whole world, and many are still marveling at the miracle, quote unquote. So why do you think we have this kind of dynamics in the communist leadership? Because many in the West still examine the development of China through ideological lens, saying unless you change the name of the communist regime, you won't have serious recognition from the developed nations. What do you think of their concerns?
I think the party is a group of elites, an assembly of the best minds, best hands, and best souls in the nation. But to be full of life force all the time, I think the party should be 3 things at the same time, all the time. One is a faithful representative, and then a perpetual pioneer, and then a good learner all the time. First, you have to be the reliable deputy for the people, connects well and responding to the aspirations of the people all the time. And then the party members should have strong sense of mission and a good awareness of the historical kind of progressive course of history, to always move and lead on the right side of history. And number 3, I think it's very, very important. This is a group of quick learners. It could be said that this is the best, I mean, the party with the best ability of learning in the whole world. And this could be the secret, the ultimate secret for the party's vitality And this reminds me of AlphaGo, the chess player. If you learn all the compositions of the game and learn much quicker than the average competitor, you are the most powerful player on the chessboard. Of course, the CPC is no machine, but it learns all the compositions and learns from all players. And I think it has something to do with the genes of the Chinese civilization, which is the only existing continuous ancient civilization in the world. I think in this sense, the party faces probably a similar prospect of life. And as the President, General Secretary Xi put it, this party walked from history into today, into the present day of remarkable success by way of learning. And it will march toward the future by way of learning as well.
Now, we have to take a second look at the resilience of the Communist Party of China. Having achieved such economic miracles, we have to look at the fundamental issue of values or value orientation of this ruling party. With the end of the Cold War, Francis Fukuyama, author of The Last Man and the End of History, said it's the democracy that prevailed towards the end of the Cold War that beat the former Soviet Empire. Now, do you think the values that the Communist Party of China holds so dear, or the core values of socialism, may run counter to the common values of what the West may hold so dear? And the West say, hey, these are the universal values of the world, of humanity. Do you think there's such a thing like universal values? And how do we look at the differences between the values we hold so dear and the alleged universal values?
I think what the party is doing now is providing leadership for China's modernization. And China's modernization is part of the modernization of the world. And the social progress made in China is part of the progress of mankind at large. Take reform and opening, for example, in the words of Deng Xiaoping, it's meant for China to catch up with the world. And take the Chinese dream, for example, in the words of the president. It corresponds with, or even echoes, the dream of the people of the whole world. I think there is the understatement, as you put it, the underlying problem of Western centrism, Western centralism. Some values valued by all nations are common values of the world, like peace, development, democracy, freedom or liberty, fairness and justice. But you can't say that common values of the world are Western values. And you can't say Western values are universal values. And when some of the values of the West don't apply here in China, you can't say it's against the common values of the world.
The Western media coverage about China is always characterized with severe scrutiny. They are so skeptical about the human rights record. They are so skeptical about the legitimacy of the communist leadership and the core values that we hold so dear, we uphold. So why do you think they are so critical? Well, some Western friends say to me, Yang Rui, they are critical of China, but they are more critical of their own institutions and whatever mistakes that their own government could make. So how do you look at the issue of a critical Western media?
I think there is the problem. There is the question of misunderstanding, prejudice, and bias. Of course, it's a very complicated issue. For example, what we call socialism with Chinese characteristics, it simply goes beyond the stereotypes or traditional understanding of socialism for the Western people. It goes against all the empirical framework of Western theories about socialism. It doesn't make sense to some people that socialism or a communist party should make such progress because you are different. You are not one of us, so I don't like you. So probably for such a matter, I think some people simply take the simplistic attitude and can't see that Chinese socialism is not socialism used to be. It could be a new model for human development.
What do you think of the alleged fears or sense of insecurity for the ruling party here? Or is it just a sheer fallacy? It's not true that we don't have a sense of security.
I think we can learn from all those events, the disintegration of the Soviet Union, the collapse of the Eastern Europe, and recently the what is called color revolution or Arab Spring, as you refer to. And the lesson is could be something like this: there is always a dark age around the corner, and the examination for the capability of governance for the party in power is going on all the time, and people always have the final say on whether you stay or not. And this is especially true for this age of the internet, when social interests, social values are all the more diversified. So the power, or the party in power, should always listen carefully to build a society of harmony and a community where all the people share the fruits of development. And of course, the party in power should always be alert to watch out against any possible subversive attempts by hostile forces.
What is the fundamental and the most dangerous threat that China is facing? Does it come from within or from without? I'd like to know from your analysis, what is the most dangerous challenges that the Communist Party is facing in the second decade of the 21st century?
Of course, there is the whole range of issues to deal with, like the South China Sea. But as Deng Xiaoping put it, said something to the effect last century, if anything serious happens to the party, it must be internal. This doesn't mean that the party could be off guard against external factors. The idea, I think, is that, to use a line from the General Secretary, to forge iron, one must be strong. So I think the party should always have an acute sense of confidence, should always have an acute sense of confidence and caution at the same time.
The Chinese proverb in Chinese says, 打铁还需自身硬. Exactly,
right.
That's a very popular
So the
assumption.
party should have an acute sense of confidence and caution at the same time. On one hand, as the president pointed out, this party, of all the parties, has every reason to be self-confident, because there's no other party that has brought about such dramatic, huge changes to the country, changed the course and destiny of the nation. So the party should and must adhere to the set course and never to be derailed. On the other hand, the leadership has been stressing the idea or the concept of capability panic. I think that means, that is to say, we have to understand that we are never prepared enough for this awesome, for this very difficult, even impossible task of governing this special country, presiding over the social transformation unprecedented in the history of the world. So if we bear that in mind, we will be better prepared to explore, to sail, and to lead, always in uncharted waters.
These days, with the rise of the internet, public opinions are so divided. Is it a curse or blessing for the decision-making process of this Communist Party?
I think it's both. It's both at the same time. It's both an opportunity and a challenge for the government. Of course, there is the problem of security, cultural and ideological security for the ruling party. But at the same time, as General Secretary Xi Jinping put it, the party should make full use of the internet as a reflection of the will and wishes of the people. Netizens are citizens, and when people get on the internet, the will and wishes of the people appear on the internet. That is why the party leader, encouraged leading members of the party to surf the net often, so as to feel about the will of the people. And I think this is governance that suits the age of the internet.
Yes, indeed, the issue of e-governance must be prioritized on the agenda of President Xi Jinping and this generation of the Chinese Communist Party leadership. Thank you very much for being with us. With that, we come to the end of this edition about the 95th anniversary of the Communist Party of China, which is, of course, the biggest ruling party so far in our human history. I'll see you next time. Until then, goodbye.